Question. Have you ever heard someone ask, have you found your Boaz? Or heard people talk about quote unquote finding their Boaz? So I started to hear this and heard people say this, particularly when it comes to giving Christian women dating advice. There are books, there are movies, there's all kinds of things encouraging women to quote unquote find their Boaz. So of course, I started asking some questions and I went back to the text and I said, who is this Boaz character? Why do I care about him and why do I need to find one? So as I was looking through the text, I went to the book of Ruth and I started reading that narrative. And one of the things that stood out to me was the connection between the book of Ruth and Insecure. Insecure, the TV show, Issa and Molly, an absolute classic. Everyone loves Insecure. So you might be saying, what in the world does Insecure have to do with the book of Ruth? Like 1 + 1 is not equaling 2. But just walk with me. I'm gonna help you get there. So first, if you are not familiar with the book of Ruth, let me give you a quick rundown. So when you're looking at Ruth, you see a woman named Naomi. She and her husband and their 2 sons decide to leave Bethlehem because they're a famine. They said, let's get out of here. Let's go to Moab. So they stay there for a while. Life is going fine. Their 2 sons end up getting married. Things are going great. So then all of a sudden, boom. Naomi's husband dies, and so do both of her sons. Everyone's just gone in the blink of an eye. So all she's left with are 2 daughter-in-laws and no grandchildren, no way to sustain herself, along with the incredible grief and devastation of losing people that you love dearly that are so close to you. So she is not having it. She is upset. She's going back home. So she tells her daughter-in-laws, like, thank you. You all have done nothing wrong. Like, love you both. Like, go back home, find new husbands. Like, God bless you. So one daughter-in-law says, like, all right, like, I'm gonna be out. Like, thank you, love you too. I'm gonna go back home, get this worked out. But her second daughter-in-law, Ruth looks at Naomi and she says, absolutely not. I'm with you. Like, we are locked in. And so she decides to give Naomi this incredible pledge. And she, where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. This intense solidification of the bond that she is making with her mother-in-law. Even with her husband deceased, she says, no, the two of us, we in this together. So, Naomi's like, all right, I guess we're going back home then. So they both go back to Naomi's home, and that's where, they're trying to figure things out. Times are tough because generally speaking at this time, women don't make money on their own. You need a husband, you need a son, you need some kind of male figure to help bring in that income. Since they don't have any, Naomi tells Ruth, like, go out, you're gonna go to the field and you're gonna start gleaning. So basically that means that while people are in the field and they're harvesting, they're going to, inevitably drop some things. And so Ruth is going to be one of the people who comes behind the people who are working, and she's going to pick up the scraps. Whatever's left over, whatever drops, that's what she's going to pick up. So while she's out in the field gleaning behind the workers, that's when the owner of the field shows up. And he likes what he sees. And he says, who is that young lady? Make sure she's taken care of. Leave a little bit of extra for her. And he goes up to her and he lets her know, like, hey, you can just come back here. Just only work in my field. We're going to keep you safe. It's going to be good over here. So after that, Ruth completes all of the gleaning she's going to do in the field for the day. She collects all that she can and she goes back home to Naomi. And when Naomi sees Ruth and sees how much she's been able to collect, she's got a couple questions. So that's when Ruth explains to Naomi, like, hey, I ran into this man, I was in his field, because of course Naomi wants to know, like, whose field were you in? And she said, it's this man named Boaz. And he was really kind to me. He helped me out. He made sure I was taken care of. And that's when Naomi's like, oh, he's our people. That's our kin. I think I got a plan for us. I think we go out to work this thing out. So Naomi gives Ruth, basically like puts her on game. And she says, hey, Boaz is going to be on the threshing floor. Here's what you're going to do. You're not going to let him know that you're around, but you're going to get yourself put together. You're going to get dressed. You're going to smell good. You're going to kind of sneak around him. And you're going to wait until he's done eating, until he's done drinking. And then when he goes to find a place to go lay down, that's when you're going to go find him when he's by himself. And you're going to lay next to him and you are going to, quote unquote, uncover his feet. And we all know that when it comes to the Bible, that the Bible often has ways of saying things a bit more discreetly. And so when we talk about uncovering, we know that that's normally used when there's something a bit more intimate happening. And also we know that the translation for feet can mean something else. Take that, however you need to imply what Naomi has sent Ruth into this field to do. And so as she's laying at Boaz's, feet, or his lower half, Boaz is like, hey, now, who are you? Oh, the young lady that I saw that I liked before, and I still like what I'm seeing. So she, introduces herself again and makes sure to call Boaz her kinsman redeemer. So at this point, Boaz knows, he understands what's happening. He gets the game, and he's like, bet I'm gonna set something up and I'm gonna work something out. Like, I'm gonna take care of this. So in the morning time, Ruth is very careful to be discreet as she exits the field and goes on back home because, she, a lady of her standing, a proper lady, should not be out in the field like she is carrying on. But she goes back home, and that's when Boaz goes in to talk to the rest of the elders, and he gets it set up so that he can marry Ruth. And so, with that being said, fast forward a little bit, Ruth ends up getting pregnant. She gives birth to a son. That son is going to be the father of Jesse. Jesse is going to be the father of David, the King David, which will be in the lineage of Jesus. So we know that Ruth has not only gotten herself into a great situation where she can have some stability, but also she's in the lineage and the legacy of Jesus. So with all of that being said, as the women of the community are coming around, not just Ruth, but also Naomi, because Naomi is still very much in the picture. The women of the community are looking at Naomi saying, look at the way that God restored you. Look at the way that the love between you and your daughter-in-law has helped bring things full circle. This is so beautiful. Look, you even basically got a son through your daughter-in-law. This is wonderful. This is just so lovely. So with that being said, you might be asking, now what in the world does this have to do with Insecure? So when I was reading this story, one of the things that I noticed is that while everyone else was talking about Boaz, really the focus of the story is about the bond between these two women, Naomi and Ruth. And so that reminded me of Insecure because, especially as all of us watched the story unfold over several seasons, there were lots of questions, especially in that last season, of who's Issa going to pick. Is it going to be Lawrence? Is it going to be Nathan? Maybe Daniel's going to pop up? Are we going to get a new love interest? Everyone was so focused on that particular piece of Issa's life. But looking at the narrative as a whole, you can really see that the primary bond is between Issa and Molly. Lawrence is not the primary focus. Is he a factor? Of course, but is he the primary factor? No. And in the same way, when I look at the book of Ruth, I see this incredible bond between two women, between Naomi and between Ruth. And Boaz is a factor. He's a factor in that dynamic, sure, but really that bond between those two women is so powerful and it's so inspiring. So as you continue through life, I encourage you to take a look at the people around you, take a look at the women next to you, and think about all of the powerful bonds that you have with the women in your community and the bonds that you'd like to form. Just something to consider.